What do you think it is about Venice that makes it stand out among LA neighborhoods?
It starts with the creation of a myth. You know, you're going to be talking about Abbot Kinney and how he founded Venice. I mean, talk about creating a dream. I mean, to the max, coming into an area that has nothing really to sell itself at that point and deciding that you're going to make the Venice of California. That in itself has created a kind of mystique around the place.
So the Venice canals are certainly, at least to some people, they're a hidden treasure of Venice. I think they're fairly well known, but what I think a lot of, at least casual visitors, might not be aware of is that these canals were once much more extensive than they are today. I mean, one of my favorite things to do when I go to Venice is to walk down the streets that used to be canals and just sort of imagine what it was like when there was water there and this little house was on an island then.
I know, isn't it amazing? And to go around Wynwood Circle, because I think Wynwood Circle was water as well.
It was a lagoon,
yeah. It was a lagoon. I mean, really, I know, it's incredible. How wouldn't you love to just like go back in time and see what it was like?
All the time, yes.
Venice's original canals were filled in and paved over in 1929. Today, there's little evidence that gondoliers once rode here, serenading their passengers. But postcards from the archives revealed a vision dreamt up by a man who wanted to launch a cultural renaissance from Southern California. Walking down these paved-over canals made me wonder about the visionary responsible for them, Abbot Kinney.
He was born in 1850, and he grows up in D.C. during the Civil War. When he's only 16, they send him off to Europe, to the University at Heidelberg. And he also goes to university in Paris and Zurich. Then he goes traveling, and he goes on a walking tour of Italy. While he's there, of course, he does a lot of walking, I guess, in Venice, Italy, and that stuck with him. He ends up coming back to DC, and he joins in with a US survey team. And he ends up coming out to California and does a survey at Yosemite. So he comes to kind of like California. And then later on, he decides he's going to come out here and do business. So he proceeds to move in Pasadena. And he ends up buying 550 acres there and calling it Kinney-ola, like Abbot Kinney. And he's quite successful in that subdivision. And the guy's only in his 20s still. Then he moves, he goes, you know, it's a little hot out here. So he goes, I've got to go down to the beach in Santa Monica. And he loves it down there. Immediately gets a house, and he starts developing this hill. He laid out all the streets in Huntington Palisades in 1886. In 1888, there's a huge real estate collapse. He lost everything that was in the Palisades, but he kept the place in Santa Monica, and he gets a chance to buy this Ocean Park casino with 1.5 miles of beach. Doesn't get along with the partners. So he says, we've got to split up the partnership. Let's take the 1.5 miles of that beach, and we'll split it in two, and we'll flip a coin to see who gets to pick which half. So they flip a coin, Abbot Kinney wins, and he chooses the swampy half, not the real valuable half, not the part of Ocean Park that's all expensive houses and really nice. He chooses this swampy area. We now know it as the marina. But he looks at that and says, you know, I'm going to build Venice of America there. And they're all looking at him like, you know, you're crazy. He had this background that he was going, no, what we're going to do is we're going to create this situation where we have pavilions and it educates the public. We have grand concerts. His plan would be an artists community, writers, educate the public. It was really a grand idea. He sees himself as a good-hearted king. He had a chauffeur when he first arrived in Venice, and a lot of people know this story, but he was a black man, Irving Tabor. And he found out how bright and wonderful this guy was, and he said, you know, I need you to manage some of my affairs. And he did. And so when Abbot Kinney dies in 1920, he leaves him a big house on the canals. And then the reality sets in for the people of Venice. They're going, oh, but we have segregated housing. So he had to move his house, this huge craftsman-style house, ended up having to move it to the section of Venice that's called Oakwood. The idea was that if you look at his time, it was amazing how open-minded and unprejudiced, and kind-hearted. This was a guy who really had a lot of humanity in him.
Abbot Kinney soon learned that his vision of an American Renaissance couldn't sustain a real estate development on the scale of Venice. So he pivoted. He dropped the opera, the public lectures, and embraced a more carnival-like atmosphere. Venice became an amusement park,